What's up, brother? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Muse Show. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you all today, especially because this is Bring Friends and Family to Work Day. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. I simply just adore this human being, just as first a human being, one as a brother, three as someone I enjoy hanging out with, four, his stories are incredible, five, he has an incredible family, and six, he is an icon. So there is that. And also two, I'm first time meeting his partner, who wrote this incredible book alongside his father. The person I'm talking about is Jimmy Jam, and then the author is Andrea Sweeney, and they together wrote this book, Deeper Blues, The Life Songs and Salvation of Cornbread Harris, which is Jimmy Jam's father. Welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Now, Andrea, I want to get right to it because I like that you're from the Midwest, like myself, and Jimmy Jam is originally from the Midwest, but he's more Hollywood now. We're gonna, I want to roast.
Why are we doing that?
No, Andrea, you want to know how he's Hollywood? It's based upon, ladies and gentlemen, how Andrea said Jimmy says his name, says her name.
That's right.
So in Michigan, growing up, when you spell the name Andrea, we say Andrea. And I moved to New York and got checked so bad, Andrea, to where I've been forced to say Andrea, right? And then so I said, when I walked in, I said, Andrea, what do I call you? Do you go by Andrea or Andrea? She says, Andrea, unless you're Jimmy Jam. And he says, Andrea.
That's right.
Which lets me know you've gone Hollywood.
No
you lost your
way.
Midwest roots, boy.
Oh,
You've lost
boy.
it.
See there?
Okay, I have another question for you then, Jimmy Jam from the Midwest, supposedly.
Mhm.
Do you say pop or soda?
Pop.
You still say pop in
Yes,
LA?
Yes.
Okay, so you've come back home a little bit. You've come back home a little bit. I'll give you a little Midwest grace.
My wife still has a 612 area code on her phone. Okay, so we keep Minnesota in the family. Okay,
That makes me happy that you still say
yes.
pop.
Yes.
The Andrea and Andrea thing really gets me every time in New York.
That's so funny.
You get checked here when you say Andrea. They're like, no, it's Andrea. I'm like, it's such a thing. Welcome, and you're such an incredible journalist.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure you can tell from my speaking voice that I am a lifelong Minnesotan,
Yeah.
lifelong Minneapolis resident.
Yeah.
And super excited to be here.
Minneapolis night. Jimmy Jam, how are you feeling, man?
I feel wonderful, man. I feel wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah.
I love that I'm both friends and family, sort of, right?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
both.
I qualify for all.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy about that, and I'm really happy to be here with Andrea or Andrea, according to which coast we're on.
Just go with
Or
how
if we're
you
in the
feel.
Midwest.
Yeah.
But she's been so instrumental in bringing a 50-year story of me being estranged from my father, and she was really the one that brought us back together. So
Yeah.
I'm super happy. I couldn't be more happy.
Audiences, never gets lost on me that I am talking to Jimmy Jam, even in the friends zone and in the family zone. And I always tell Jimmy Jam, I want to give you your flowers every time I see you. Just thank you so much for the incredible music that you have curated as just the soundtrack of my life. And not just my life, but so many other lives. And the way that you have been a part of so many family gatherings and backyard barbecues and birthday parties and dorm room parties and college parties and all the things, man. So just thank you for your
man.
gift of music and for your artistry. It truly is special, man, what you've been able to accomplish. Do you think back on your life and ever just pinch yourself at times, or?
Sort of, although I tend to be more of a forward-looking person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think about it a whole lot, but I appreciate the appreciation, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
love when I've had the chance to touch people in some way. And I think that for me, it gives me the motivation going forward that I still think I have some more stuff to do. I don't
Mhm.
feel I'm quite done yet. So it's very inspiring to hear people be, appreciative of what I've done.
I think when people, and Andrea, you can chime in because you've interviewed so many musicians and artists and you've seen the greats, and so many greats have come from Minneapolis, i.e. Prince. And
Yes.
so you've seen music firsthand. And Minneapolis is such a jam session town, right?
Yes.
It's big bands, big music, instrumentation and artistry. And so, Jimmy, I think that when you really are a craftsman at your job, that the skill sets never go away. I feel like they only get better. And that's the beauty of music, is not only is when you make great music, to which your catalog is great music, it's timeless, but you can always create. I don't think music is almost just like energy. It's never created nor destroyed.
Yeah. No, I wake up every day with an idea in my head, which I feel very blessed to do. I'm a blessed dude,
Yes.
as Cornbread likes to say. I'm a blessed dude. But but it's not even whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, because a lot of the ideas aren't necessarily good. But I just like every day waking up with an idea in my head, and I always feel when I wake up, I just wake up with a chance. I feel like God has given me another chance to do something meaningful in some way. So that I'm just appreciative of that.
Andrew, when you have been interviewing so many artists, like, what do you think is the through line when you look at Cornbread and look at Jimmy Jam that is part of their secret sauce, right? Just as a craftsman of their art.
Well, I mean, for someone like Cornbread, who's now 97 and still playing out once a week, it's really, back to what you said about Minneapolis being this jam town. It's really a live music city. We are lucky to have a huge, responsive live music audience. People are willing to go out on a Monday night and see a band and, pay a cover and support what they're doing. And so I think it really cultivates this high level of talent, because when you're playing live that much and entertaining people just using your guitar and voice and improvising, there's nothing to hide behind. You have to bring it, and you have to bring your skills and show what you've got. So I think that's really given this backbone to this whole music scene, that there's this audience and there's these musicians that are really trying to be the best that they can be in this live setting.
And that's what I've been thinking about a lot too, and Jimmy Jam, feel free to chime in, about looking at these touring artists that we have right now. And I think that's why I really say this. We're in an era where music is timeless, and when artistry is timeless, and when you have a catalog of great music, it's timeless. I'm thinking about like Billy Joel, right? I've gone to his concerts in Madison Square Garden, and the brother just sits behind this piano and rocks out an arena. I'm just like, good God, it's a piano, right? In the arena. It's not some smoky bar in the corner of New York City or Minneapolis or Lansing, Michigan, right? But that goes to the point of how powerful music is and how times is, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, the funny thing is about Billy Joel is a great example of someone who is as comfortable in Madison Square Garden as he probably was. He was the piano man originally, right? And he probably was sitting in bars and doing that. But it just shows you that, music, I'm so appreciative of music. It's taken me around the world. It's given me associations with people who I would probably never have anything in common with. But what we have all in common is just the love of music. And there's something that's very special about that. And once again, I just don't take it for granted. I feel like it's such a privilege to do.
But let me ask you, because this book is obviously uncovering the greatness that is your father and the musician. But a part of me has to look at this book and recognize that music is also too what created the separation between you and your father.
Well, for me, I mean, it really goes back to my dad. When he married my mom, he kind of made a vow to give up music, that he was going to give music up and he was just going to raise me, work a regular job. And of course, you can't really do that. I mean, the music started calling him. He wanted to go and do some gigs and do some different things and take a leave of absence from his job. And my mom just honestly wouldn't let him do it. And I remember listening to them argue back and forth. And I just thought, I mean, what it did is, first of all, it made me, I never want to get married and never want to have kids, because I didn't want to have anything to ever take me away from music. But as, fast forwarding a lot of years, when later on I quit high school to pursue music, and I thought my mom was going to, kill me. And she actually said, as long as I see you going after your dream, it's okay. And a few years later, we actually won a Grammy for Producer of the Year. My mom was my date, so she didn't get a chance to see me walk across the graduation stage, but she got to see me walk across the Grammy stage.
Special.
So now, fast forward to a couple of years ago, somebody said to me, do you think your mom let you do that because she didn't let your dad achieve his dream? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, you know what? I need to let him know that I appreciate that he sacrificed literally his career so that I could have mine.
Wow.
And it's the story that Andrea, or part of the story that she tells so beautifully in the book, is just that music was the thing that drove us apart initially, but it was the thing that ultimately 50 years later brought us back together.
And it was almost healing in a closing chapter for your mom in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Allowing you to do what she wouldn't let your father do.
Yeah, totally. I never thought of it like that, but once again, hindsight's 20/20. But I was, after I got more mature, and also after I raised my own kids, because the whole I'm not getting married, I'm not having kids, of course. When I met Lisa, my 30-year wife now, she changed that, and so it made it where it was just important for me to, once now that I've been a dad, like it was tough to criticize. Terry, my partner, always says, you can't criticize a boss if you haven't been a boss, right? Yeah. Like, because you don't know what those decisions are like. And so after I was a father and actually raised my kids to the point where they're adults, then I felt like, it wasn't whether I agreed with his decision to leave back in the day, my dad's decision to leave, but it was that I understood it. I understood the pressures and the things that he was going through to do it. And I also understand there's just the call of music. Yeah. It's like oxygen, it's so, you just need it. You need it. So.
Andrea, what do you think it was that the calling of music that hit Cornbread so hard to where he was willing to walk away from family to pursue what he was doing? What was about his constitution and the DNA and music in him?
Well, I can't speak for, the decisions that he made in the 60s and 70s, but now that he's 97, I can see that music is absolutely what is keeping him going. Mm-hmm. When I go to visit him, I visit him every Tuesday afternoon, and oftentimes Jimmy's joining in on Zoom. And we'll come in the house, and it takes him quite a while now to get to his piano bench, and that's where we like to hang out. But as soon as he swivels around on that bench and starts playing, it's like his whole body animates, and his fingers are still so agile, and his touch is so soft, and he's just such a skilled, he's been playing piano for 75, 80 years at this point. He's such a skilled player, and you can just see how it's feeding him and giving him this energy. And then when he's in front of an audience, whether it's a few people at a bar or 400 people at the book release concert that Jimmy came home to play, you can just see it filling him up and really bringing him to life. So I do think that it is something that absolutely is at the core of his being. And I know you've said, Jimmy, that, it's like oxygen to you, that if someone asks you to give up music, it's like asking you to stop breathing.
That's exactly right.
And I think it's the same for Cornbread.
So we've been doing a lot of conversation just recently. I can look at the team about forgiveness and coming together, right? And as you're listening, and one, you paint such a vivid picture just in your storytelling as well. I can see why you relate to this family. As you were saying, it takes him longer to get to the bench, but once he sits down, it's almost he's made anew, right? Yes. And like the keyboard, he just knows the keys. And from a religious standpoint of view, I think about like that narrative of balm in Gilead, right? Like it's that balm that is just so transformative, right? And the healing power of music. And so I guess what I love about this story, that it's just not about the father and son coming together, but it's also too like his story, like this anthropological dynamic. And you really don't hear about Black musicians of that time period. You may hear about one or two, but there's so many just undiscovered individuals. Like, how did you get drawn to this moth to a flame dynamic to him, where you still come every Tuesday?
Well, I thought about this recently. I could have gone to interview him a couple times and then moved on, or maybe written an article, or, just interviewed for as much information as I needed. But I've just been so charmed by his personality and his natural gift for entertaining. He entertains me like I'm an audience member when I'm at his house. And it's just such a wonderful highlight of my week. I always leave lighter than I arrived. And it's like a gift to have him in my life. So it's really a very personal connection. And then to have this friendship blossom between both him and me, and then him and me and Jimmy. And we've gone on this real journey together now over the last 3.5 years of watching them come back into each other's lives, and in the same process uncovering all these parts of Jimmy's childhood that he hadn't thought about in many years. It's just been beyond words, really. It's just such an honor.
I got to tell you, by the way, I got to say that reading the book, even for me, I learned so much from the book, because it's things that, my dad and I never talked about. So I learned a lot about that. But one of the things you talked about earlier, when you talk about, Black men and music and all of that in Minneapolis and that combination of stuff, one of the interesting things about Andrea's background, or is that right, Andrea?
Yeah.
Anyway,
whatever you call me, whatever you want, Jimmy.
Well, as Cornbread calls her the book lady.
Okay,
that's right. There we go.
The book lady.
So in the book lady's background, she actually explored basically life before Prince.
Yes.
in Minnesota. What was the book called?
Got to Be Something Here, The Rise of the Minneapolis Sound.
Got to Be Something Here. So the whole origin story of the way the music happened back there, particularly in the Black community, she's already documented that in a book. So she was the perfect person to me then to tell the story of not only the music part of, cornbread and jam, as we like to call ourselves now, but also just, the family stories and all of those things. Because she had the trust of everybody, starting with Prince back in the day, who loved her writing and was very generous to her back in the day when nobody would talk, when Prince wouldn't talk to anybody, he would talk to the book lady.
Yeah, it's the book lady.
Yes.
Well, to the book lady, I want to know, there's something I was reading and doing my research for this interview, and it talked about the lack of coverage of Black artists at that time, right?
Yes.
And then in mainstream print, if you will, right? And one of the saving graces was the Black publication were you able to start. And I think that just talks about the importance of Black media.
Yes.
If you can expound upon how that has been so key in order to piece the story together, because for me, that's a metaphor for not just cornbread and Jimmy Jam, but just for other dynamics of Black history that just goes unnoticed.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it says a lot that the first time Cornbread was profiled in our local newspaper was 40 years into his career. He had already been in multiple bands that had built up buzz, and he was a well-known entertainer at that point. But some of the amazing moments that I had in the archives actually dated back before Cornbread was even born. When I started my research, Cornbread gave me the name of his mother, and I was able to go to the Minnesota Historical Society and pull up the microfilm of a couple community Black-owned newspapers from the 1920s. And I found a clip that was announcing the fact that his mother was the new organist at the church.
Oh.
And she was only 19 years old, so she was like kind of hailed as a young prodigy. And it was so illuminating to know that this musical legacy extended back at least one more generation than what we even knew. And there was actually a little picture that I couldn't see on the printout that I was looking at. So I went to the actual microfilm and got the reel out with the librarian, and we were adjusting all the settings, and then this face emerged on the microfilm, and it looked like Jimmy.
Wow.
And I just said, that looks like Jimmy Jam. And we were like, wow, what an amazing discovery and resemblance and piece of this, their story and their legacy.
But Jimmy, so just listening to that story and just hearing that your, I guess, grandmother, probably your grandmother, was a prodigy. I look at you as a prodigy, right? Cornbread clearly is a prodigy. So you have a lineage of that. Did you feel that there was something missing? Because here you are, an icon, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member, inductee is what you guys call yourselves, right? Inductee. Okay, what's the proper name? Yeah.
No, inductee, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm in the club.
I'm trying to figure out what's the right, is inductee still? Are you not an honoree anymore? I don't know. Okay, cool.
No,
and member sounds like you could be.
I'm already in. I'm in inductee.
Inductee. Yeah,
there you go.
I was like, member, I don't know. Member's like anybody can be it, but it's not true. Okay, cool. Inductee. Clearly, I'm not used to interviewing Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and inductees.
Yeah, come on.
But so you have this, you're producer of the year. Like, was there a longing that you felt was missing and as a grown man of not having a relationship with your father?
No, I didn't miss it. Honestly, I had gotten to the point where, when my dad left, it was me and my mom. So me and my mom had formed a bond at that point, and I didn't really feel like I was missing anything or anything was missing until, like I say, after my kids were grown up. That's when I felt a need, not so much even to see him as much as just to let him know that I didn't have any sort of resentment or anything. And it wasn't even a thing where, let's get back together so you can tell me what you were thinking when you left, or I don't care about any of that. I just cared about moving forward from that place. So for me, plus I can't look at my life when you talk about somebody who's, I'm married, I have a family, I'm a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, all these other things, a partner to Terry Lewis for over 50 years. I can't look at my life and have any sort of bitterness. I really can't. I have nothing but thanks And I just wanted to let him know that. And
Where
it
did
was,
that come from, though, Jimmy Jam? Because I mean, that's not easy. We just had a conversation last week about forgiveness,
Yeah.
and the road to forgiveness is complicated and it's messy, and it can come and go in waves. Like, how did you have this resolve? The artist Titus Kafar told me there's a difference between forgiving and having reconciliation, right? And so, how did you have this, I guess, this ease or calmness of saying all is well?
Maturity is the word that comes to mind.
Okay.
I'm old, so I tend to manage my energy in a way where I want it to always be positive. I don't want to waste my energy on negative thoughts. I don't want to waste my energy on blaming, on grudges, on all of those heavy things. I tried to lose weight, not gain weight, right? So I think that's my biggest thing. Plus, I honestly, it didn't matter to me. Like, I get that some people it would matter to, like, oh, why did this happen? And, all of that, and they want to go back. I didn't want to go back. I just simply wanted to say thank you for where I'm at in my life and realize as I teach my kids. The funny thing is, when we got together, my son Max was with me. And so he got to meet his granddad for the first time, and a lot of the lessons that we were talking about this earlier, we're like always the people that close the place, right? So when my dad was performing back when I was a kid, we'd always be the last ones to leave because he'd sign every autograph, he'd take every picture, he'd do everything. And I'd be, Dad, come on, can we go? And he'd always say to me, no, you never know where these people came from to see you. You have to make sure you acknowledge them. And, I did the same thing with my kids. We're trying to get out the Grammys or something, and they're pulling on me, can we go? And it's like, no, just I got to take a picture and I got to do. I felt the same way. So those are the lessons that he taught me, and then I taught my kids that too. And so there's something about the fact that so much of who I am is because of him. So blaming him is almost like blaming myself in a way, and I didn't want to do that.
Audience of the Mike Muse Show, you guys have heard some lessons these last couple of weeks on there's so many different ways to forgive and to heal and to approach things. That's a level of maturity, Jimmy Jam, that I honestly don't think I can't imagine myself having at this current time. And I've been very open with the idea of I just healed from holding grudges, right? And also too, forgiveness isn't an easy thing for me. It's very complicated for me, right? But
Mike, how old are you?
For you,
how old are you?
A little bit younger than you.
Okay,
just a little bit younger.
I'll tell you that, but I'll tell you, some of that has a lot to do with it, because the person I am now, 30 years ago, I wasn't the same person. Yeah. So I wouldn't have made the same decisions, and I probably wouldn't have I would have been looking for explanations.
Yeah. But I think
I'm not looking for explanations now.
Oh, that's good, Jim.
That's the difference.
That's good.
So when you get to my age, you get your ARP card and your senior discounts and stuff, then you'll understand what I'm saying.
There's hope.
Yeah. There's definitely hope.
There's hope. Andrew, I'm curious, from the other side of the coin, you meet with him every Tuesday. What was that first Tuesday after he and Jimmy met like when Jimmy wasn't there?
He was euphoric is the word that he kept using. He said he felt like he was floating around in the air. And I think at that point, none of us knew if that was going to be the only time that they spoke or if there might be more. He definitely had an ache of wanting more Jimmy in his life and was really thinking about that and hoping for that, and in a way kind of manifested that, because one of the first things he said was, we're going to perform together, and I don't care if it's at, the club here or Carnegie Hall, but I want to play 2 of his songs and he's going to play 2 of my songs, and we're going to get on stage and put on a show. And within a year of that, they were on stage together playing a show and playing each other's songs, and he was teaching Jimmy, his original compositions. And it was such a beautiful thing to see unfold, and he really had that vision right at the beginning.
Even in your big age that you are, Jimmy Jam, just wanted to give thanks to him. I'm sure for him, a weight had to have been taken off of his shoulders, right? I don't think, no matter how much you love music, how much you love your craft, you can't help but think about what you also too left behind.
Yes.
And wonder how did that impact your loved ones, and to know you came with gratitude has got to have taken such a heavy burden off of him.
Yes.
I really couldn't have think of a better place to really end that conversation in that moment, audience, as we are all on our pathway of healing, all on our pathways of forgiveness. And sometimes it's not about you, and then sometimes it is about you. But I think over these last couple of weeks, audience, what we have learned is that everyone has their own journey to healing, and everyone has their own path to forgiveness. And I would say, and I will let one know your closing thoughts on this, but I think the closing thought for me would just be to give yourself grace as you're in this process.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, Jimmy, as a closing thoughts
I
on
would
the
say-
lessons from this?
Well, I think for me is that, listen, it was interesting because we filmed when I played with my dad, and I sent it to a couple of friends that I thought would appreciate it. And their response was, you got to send this to everybody, because everybody will take a piece of this. It may not relate directly to them as a father and son, or even as a family member, but it will relate to them in a way of it's never too late, and that door should always be open. Only if just a little crack open, but it's got to stay open. And so that's part of the reason I'm so happy about that. Andrea has, the book lady, has chronicled this journey, but also why I think, honestly, it's a book that everybody should read, because I think there will be a piece of it that you will take from it, and it will make your relationship better somewhere in your family or somewhere amongst your friends. I just think there's lessons in there that aren't even intentional, but I just think in reading it, you will be maybe inspired to take another look at something. And I know some of my friends that I've sent some things to, they kind of feel that way about it.
Well, with that being said, Jimmy Jam, thank you for that gift, a nugget of healing. And Andrea, a.k.a. Book Lady Swinson, thank you so much for your anthropological study on this and historical aspect of it, and your journalism skills. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, until next time, folks, peace and enjoy your journey to healing and forgiveness. Peace.